Welcome to Fanatics Live, where we virtually connect you with your favorite stars and athletes right at home. Tonight, we will be meeting with fans, signing autographs, and engaging in live Q&A. Now, let's welcome our host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Fanatics Live, where we are all about bringing your favorite athletes to you right at home. I'm your host, Jessica Blaylock, and I cannot wait to introduce you to today's special guest. But first, I wanted to let you know that today's show is brought to you by the FanCash Rewards Card by Fanatics. As a FanCash Rewards card holder, you receive benefits and perks, including access to unforgettable experiences with athletes, earn 6% fan cash on every purchase, exclusive deals, offers, and much more. Time now to introduce you to today's special guest. As someone who grew up in a very hardcore Red Sox household, this introduction is certainly a fun one for me. Carlton Fisk not only played the most demanding position in all of Major League Baseball, he did it at such a high level for such an incredibly long time. His catching career in the big leagues started in 1969 and ran through 1993. During that time, he suited up for both the Red Sox and the White Sox, was an 11-time All-Star, and has had his number retired by both teams. He was also inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame back in 2000. And of course, we have to mention that iconic game-winning 12th inning home run in Game 6 of the 1975 World Series, a play that really changed the course of sports television broadcasting. Without further ado, let's welcome in Carlton Fisk. Good morning, Carlton. Hi. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Let's jump right in. You
Good
had
deal.
Such a remarkable career. At one point, you held the record for most games played by a catcher. You still hold the American League record for most service time behind the plate at 24 years. What do you attribute the longevity of your career to, especially considering that catching is such a physically and mentally demanding position?
Probably stubbornness and stupidity, maybe. I don't know. I like to be involved in the game, and that's where I was most involved. And I sort of try to take charge because I thought the most important part of my job was the relationship between myself and the pitchers. I know I put up some offensive numbers, but that was basically a secondary thought when I played. And I think I get the most out of our pitchers. I didn't know. I kind of had them play at my pace as opposed to them rushing through situations and them not really grasping it fully to get their best.
Speaking of great accomplishments, we know that Major League Baseball universally has retired Jackie Robinson's number. But in addition to Jackie Robinson, there are only 10 players who have had their number retired by two different teams. And that, of course, like I mentioned, includes you by the Red Sox and the White Sox. What does it mean to be a part of that club of players who have had their number retired by two different teams? What does that honor mean to you?
Well, it's a pretty exclusive honor. And I don't know if it's so much of an honor as it is an accomplishment. I know that both organizations, both teams, I gave the best that I had at both ends. You know, I know that the front end was more youthful than the back end, but I actually did catch more games in Chicago than I did in Boston. But I think that the way I played resonated with a lot of people within each organization, and especially the fans. And I think that's what they recognize more than anything is that, the effort and the production that you give in to each organization.
Your popularity was not only well known in the sports world, but also well known in the pop culture world. You were involved in two major blockbuster movies, obviously Field of Dreams. And there was an entire scene in Good Will Hunting that was based on your iconic home run. So I got to ask you, have you seen, not only Field of Dreams, obviously, but Good Will Hunting as well? And did you know that there was going to be an entire scene based on your play?
I have seen both films, and it was what a surprise that a whole segment of Good Will Hunting was about that home run. I thought maybe I should get a non-performing, non-speaking Oscar. for that particular. No, that was pretty exciting. And then the '99 All-Star game, where I was the sort of the designated coach. I did meet Matt Damon that night, and we had a great little conversation. But it was pretty unexpected that it was going to be that, that long and proved to be that important to the movie.
Yeah, it's so cool, and that's such a great quote from that movie. He had to see about a girl. That's why he missed the home run. He had to see about a girl. Right. Well, we have a couple of fans, Carlton, who are so excited about getting the opportunity to meet you, and they have a couple of questions of their own. We're going to kick things off with Barry. He is calling in from San Diego, California. He became a fan. Yeah, he became a fan of yours after, of course, that special home run. And he said his go-to concession stand items are lobster rolls and clam chowder. So he must be ordering concession items at Fenway. Let's welcome in Barry.
Wow.
Hi, Carlton. How are you doing?
How are you?
The question I have for you is, with current baseball players today, how it has changed and what you think about the changes, where all of a sudden they're friends on the baseball field. They're patting each other, talking to one another. I mean, their relationships are not what it used to be in baseball, where they were almost your enemy.
Well, I think that's what bottom line was. We considered them not just the opposition or the competition. They were supposed to be unfriendly, and it was sort of an unwritten rule when I played that you didn't fraternize with the other team. And if you did, of course, you're going to, throughout the course of playing, you're going to recognize guys on the other team and guys and you want to say, hey, how's it going and all that. Well, if you get caught by your veterans on your team fraternizing, you'd get reprimanded pretty well. More than just scolded. They laid out the repercussions if you did. So I think that in a lot of ways that has kind of suppressed the rivalries that were existing then. Not only between the players that were playing, because obviously it was you against them, but the teams. I mean, the Red Sox Yankee rivalry, there was nothing more intense than that ever before, or I don't think ever since. And then now with interleague play, the All-Star game is not what it used to be. The All-Star game is now sort of a fun exhibition with a home run contest, and everybody's, patting each other on the back and having a good time. So I'm not sure that I've really embraced the interleague play or not. It's kind of removes the mystique between National League and American League that people used to look forward to in the World Series. But it's different. It's really different. I don't know who or how or when it sort of progressed or transgressed with the situation it is now. But it certainly is different than it used to be.
Great response. Thank you so much, Carlton. And you stay safe.
All right. Thank you.
And Barry, you're going to be taking home an autographed baseball. Carlton's going to put his autograph on that for you. And it is a great question. And we've seen baseball change so much. And I think a big part of it, too, is a lot of these guys work out together now in the off season. And I think build a lot of friendships by working out together during the off season. But yeah, there's a lot of joking going on over at first base, right?
Yeah. Boy, if you ever talked to anybody at first base before, one, they wouldn't talk to you. And two, you didn't want to talk to them.
Right.
And I know that I had a chance, coming from New Hampshire, there's not a lot of Major League Baseball players from New Hampshire. And at the time, there were a couple with Mike Flanagan and Steve Balboni, and Mike Lavalier, as I used to call him. And I had a chance to work out with those guys during the winter, but I didn't think it was appropriate. You could show them your strengths, but in that process, they would sort of recognize your weaknesses too. So I didn't want them to feed off that. So, my workouts were singular, I would guess.
Right. Great question, Barry. Thank you so much. And really
Thanks,
interesting
Barry.
points too, Carlton. Next, we're going to welcome in John. He is calling in from Mount Washington, Kentucky. He is a FanChats Rewards card holder, so gets this awesome opportunity in part because of having one of these. You'll have some more information on that in just a few minutes. But he says his go-to concession stand item is kettle corn. Nice little salty, sweet mix right there. Let's welcome in John.
Hi, Carlton.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Good. How about you, sir?
Good. I'm doing well, thanks.
I was wondering, besides your most iconic home run in Boston, what's your most favorite memory of Boston, your time there?
I don't know if there's a singular memory or not, but what a thrill it was to be playing for, quote unquote, my hometown team. I grew up in New Hampshire, just 2 hours north of Boston, and to be able to go into Fenway Park and contribute to the history of that ballpark and the organization. It's hard to explain how that feels, and of course that 75 home run sort of sticks out, but there are plenty of other times, I guess it more than just sticks out because it's still being played, but my relationship with my pitching staff and, the other starters on the team, that's what you cherish most of all, especially a guy like Louis Tion, who is the favorite of all time catching, and then you get some he's still my favorite, but he was a little more difficult to play with, Bill Lee. That there was a reason they called him the spaceman, because he was out there sometimes, but playing for the hometown team and creating some memories was pretty special.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've never seen a concession stand with lobster rolls and clam chowder. I know they have popcorn and hot dogs and beer and stuff, and chips, but a lot different than when I was there. You're lucky to get a hot dog or some, fried something or other. So it's you need a snack at the ballpark. You really do. Yeah. So it's a good deal.
And I think Fenway does sell lobster rolls now. I think that's on their official menu. So John, You're going to have a chance to take home that baseball.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Carlton's signature on it. That's going to be awesome. And John, I think I mentioned this when we were talking to JD Martinez last time around. Fenway is just such a magical ballpark. The Fenway faithful, the Red Sox fans, they're just so loyal and dedicated to their team. So Carlton having a chance to play in front of that crowd, can't even imagine what that must have been like.
Well, it's they do cheer for the hometown team. They don't very often boo, your home players, unless you're sloughing off and not giving it your all. But I experienced both ends of that approach to the players when I was there as a player. When you strike out with bases loaded, nobody likes that, and most of all, the players don't like to do that either, and they let you know about that. But they appreciated your effort when you went in there. If you gave it what they considered your all, they accepted, because making an outs are human. But now on the other side, I come into Fenway Park as a White Sox. There's a whole different reception there. When I first stepped up there, I'd say there was probably 80 or 90% boos, with about 10% of the people that say, "Oh yeah, I remember you. You look weird in that uniform, and I still like you, but I hope you don't do very good." So
right.
It got to be where they still appreciated your effort, and I think they do with the opposition. They appreciate talent. They appreciate approach, and they appreciate how you handle yourself when things don't go so well or when things go well. So I think they can appreciate effort and production from either team, but especially the home team.
John, thanks so much for the question. Good to see you again.
Thanks,
John. Good to see you.
All right, and now we've got a regular of the show, Dennis. He's calling in from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He became a Carlton Fisk fan after watching you play, actually for the Pawtucket Red Sox. And he says his baseball number, some going back in time. He says his baseball number would be 34 to honor Big Papi. Let's welcome in Dennis.
Hey, Carlton, how you doing, pal?
Hey, Dennis. Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I apologize. Right. I'm at the train station in Lawton, Virginia, waiting for my car to come off the train. So we're on our way back to Rhode Island. So.
Oh, I thought you'd be on the golf course or something, but.
Yeah, I wish I was on the golf course today.
Yeah, really.
The auto train's not that.
We're in Rhode Island. Where in Rhode Island you going back?
I started being a fan way back in Pawtucket. I mean, I grew up in Providence, and I saw you play at Fenway. Oh my God, you knew. I mean, forever. I mean, you were one of my boyhood heroes. And I got to complete. This completes the other half. My brother and myself used to argue about who was going to be Carlton Fisk and who was going to be Johnny Bench.
Oh my goodness.
I got to do this with Johnny Bench not too long ago. Now I complete the other side of it, and I meet one of my other boyhood heroes. So
well, I'm glad one of you weren't me. I'm glad one of them was me, but I'm also glad that the other one wasn't Thurman Munson or.
No. I mean, back in the day, Johnny Bench and the Big Red Machine, but always a Red Sox fan. My gosh, I'm always a Red Sox fan.
Well, that was fun. That 75 World Series was pretty fun. We were not supposed to have a chance against the Big Red Machine, but we definitely showed up.
So that's a good segue into my question. So when I did the meet and greet with Johnny Bench, my question to him was sitting behind the plate watching that home run go over the monster with you pushing it over. What was his thoughts, on that? So let's hear your thoughts on the other side of you running up the first baseline, pushing the ball over the wall.
I know. Wasn't that something? I was really weird because it was extra innings, obviously. Yep. And it was past midnight, and it was past my bedtime, to tell you the truth. And it's really weird. I was standing on the on-deck circle with Fred Lynn, and I don't... Yep. It's really weird because not very many times throughout the year that I would hit in front of Fred, because Fred was one of the best hitters on the team and usually would come up after him. But in this particular case, I came up before him, and we're standing on the on-deck circle, and I just happened to mention to Fred, I said, Fred, I felt pretty good. I said, I'm going to hit one off the wall, drive me in. He says, that sounds like a good idea. I'll do it. So then I get up there and 2 pitches later, the ball's flying up towards the foul pole, and I was just hoping and praying and waving and blowing that ball fair, and it hit the post. And I went, oh man, that's just unbelievable. And I don't even remember running around the base. I remember jumping and waving, but I don't even remember running around the base. So it's one of those moments that you treasure, not just because what happened, because it was my moment, and it's almost like it was, that moment in the universe that was yours alone and specifically. So I look back on it and I go, you wonder, one, and when I see the pictures, I go, who is that guy? He's too young. I don't remember that guy being that young before. But I look back on it, it still gives me goosebumps on what happened that night.
I've got that picture hanging in my office. I've got an autographed copy of that picture hanging in my office. So.
Well, good. I got a baseball for you, and I'm going to sign it, and
great.
We'll end up sending it to you. So hold on.
Thank you so much.
And that's perfect, Dennis. You've got the picture, and now you can put the baseball right next to it. So not only do you complete getting to ask both perspectives, but now you can add that to your memorabilia.
I've also got a nice picture. I think it's a Sports Illustrated cover of when signed Rookie of the Year. So,
what do you think about?
What's that?
What do you think about Pawtucket now going to Worcester? What is that all about?
You know what? I just that was just they should have stayed in Pawtucket. I don't know why the politicians.
I know. I don't know if I can even. I don't know if I can even relate to them being in Worcester. Somebody.
That was such a great little ballpark.
In City Hall messed up there. I can tell you that.
Yeah, they did because they lost a lot. And you played down there, and I'm sure you spent a lot of time in and around Pawtucket when you were living down there, so you know the area really supported the team. So I hope they get the same support in Worcester.
You're kind of, yeah, well, good support out there. I feel bad because I thought that Pawtucket had, found out a place to build a new.
They still hold the record for the longest.
They ended up going to Worcester, so.
Yeah, like Dennis said, hopefully they get the same support.
And the players can come and go, so that's a good.
Yeah,
and they still hold the record for the longest game played, though.
Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like we may have lost our connection to Carlton, but we're gonna try and get him back on the line in just a second. But yeah, thinking about that home run and how Carlton was saying, you think about players who get an opportunity to play in the big leagues. Some of them don't even ever get the chance to go to the World Series, let alone have an iconic moment from a game in the World Series. But like Carlton said, walking to the plate, that game was in extra innings at that point. It was the 12th inning, and all you've got to be thinking of at that point is trying to end the ball game and force a Game 7, and that's exactly what Carlton was able to do. We're going to get Carlton back on the line, but for right now, let's hear a word from our sponsor. As always, these Fanatics Live, brought to you by the FanCash Rewards Card.
Introducing the FanCash Rewards Credit Card by Fanatics. Earn 6% FanCash when you shop with your card on Fanatics.com with exclusive cardholder perks and 6-month special financing on purchases of $150 or more. Text now to apply or go to Fanatics.com.
And like I mentioned, as always, our show brought to you by the FanCash Rewards Card by Fanatics. We'll get you set up with more information, and you can go to Fanatics Live to learn more about this. Welcome back, Carlton. I know we lost you for just a second, but good to have you back. So we had some great questions from fans who had the live meet and greet opportunity. And now we've actually got a couple of questions from fans on social media. Just a reminder, you can follow @Fanatics on Instagram. Look out for those videos. It's also how you can be able to submit your questions. Now, we heard Dennis just ask about that iconic home run. Craig wants to ask about that too, but he's got a little bit of a different perspective on it.
Hi, Carlton. I'm Craig from Western Florida. I want to ask you about that great home run from the 1975 World Series. We know what it meant to your team. You got to go to Game 7. It was the game-winning homer. But I want to ask you about the iconic shot, because legend has it that the cameraman had rats around him, and instead of following the ball like they normally did, he kept the camera on you, and it left us with one of the great shots in baseball history. How did that change your life? That shot, how it's replayed time and time all these years later.
I guess that's good for me. It was good for us, but it was good for me. I heard that story about the rats and him not be able to, or being afraid of rats and not wanting to move the camera. So I think that was the first time that the camera in a game like that had ever followed the player. So in that respect, I think it was sort of unique and groundbreaking that they now have cameras all over the ballpark, and they're on all kinds of different players. And the only thing I don't know if I really like it or not, is that they have such powerful lenses that they get up so close on your face, you can see the pimple on the side of your nose or something. So in that respect, I think it's a little too much, but it has made that moment pretty historical, pretty iconic, and it's, I guess it's made me more recognizable all over, because every World Series they do end up showing on that home run, and so it's pretty nice to be relevant at least once a year.
Oh, for sure. And like you mentioned, yeah, maybe those high definition cameras aren't always forgiving, but to see that genuine emotion and reaction from the players is really cool. And we have one more question from social media for you to answer. Here we go.
This is Rick from Florida, and my question for Mr. Fisk is, as someone who's been a part of the Red Sox Yankees rivalry and a part of one of the greatest on-field fights, what do you think separates the Red Sox Yankees from other rivalries?
I think maybe the length of time they've been rivals, to tell you the truth. Way back in the Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio days, I don't think it was as physically intense as it was when I played. But I'm sure there's a rivalry then where Joe and Ted were trying to outdo each other. But, I don't think that rivalry would have been as relevant if the Red Sox and the Yankees weren't pretty well matched up talent-wise, position for position almost. And I know it got violent in certain times. Always noisy, always profane. So in that respect, it's not anywhere near what it used to be back then. Now guys are shaking hands and patting you on the back, and you get on first base and they're carrying on conversations. And back in the day, you didn't ever talk to anybody on the other team, especially if you wore a Yankee uniform. So I won't say the game has gotten softer, but the rules and regulations have let up a little bit.
For sure. Still one of the great rivalries in sports, though, without a doubt. A rivalry that transcends even baseball, just sports in general. We're going to end things, Carlton, with a rapid fire round of questions. I'll give you a question, and I just want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind. When you were a player, what was your favorite visitor ballpark to play in? Which ballpark did you like to travel to and play in?
I would say there was a couple of them. I think Chicago in Old Comiskey Park and Detroit in Old Tiger Stadium. There's new stadium, so I don't even know what that's like playing in old ballpark.
If you could have the autograph of any player, whether it was a guy that you used to play with or against back in the day, or maybe a current player in Major League Baseball, whose autograph would you like to have?
One of my favorite people and players of all time, because I wanted to be playing next to him, was John Havlicek for the Boston Celtics. And if I had a chance to trade or change jerseys, that's the guy that I would love to.
That's awesome.
To be.
During the course of your career, you had the opportunity to play in two incredible cities in Boston and Chicago. They both have so many wonderful aspects. Did you have one, just as far as the city goes, that was a favorite, Boston or Chicago?
You have to take those differently. In Chicago, you were always the visiting team, so you went out to restaurants and you living in a hotel. Whereas in Boston, you're the home team and you go home. So there was no sightseeing and there was no walking around the ballpark or anything. But another great city I thought to walk around was Seattle, because they have such nice views, and so I like that city also.
Now, Chicago is obviously known for deep dish pizza. Boston is famous for its seafood, its clam chowder. Did you have a favorite food in each city?
I would say in Boston it'd probably be clam chowder, and in Chicago, let's see. I would say probably it would be the pizza in Chicago.
Oh yeah, for sure. Always got to get the pizza when you go to Chicago. Yeah. Who is your all-time favorite catcher?
That's a good question. Even though I never saw him play, obviously he's pretty iconic and pretty recognizable, and not only physically but in the game of baseball, and that'd be Yogi Berra. And I have seen him a number of times, and God rest his soul. And he's just a nice, genuine person. You wouldn't think he'd be, if you looked at him now, you wouldn't think he was one of the mainstays of the Yankee lineup. But because he's so unassuming and he's so down to earth and he's so, just genuine. So I think that's who I would like to have seen play.
You had a couple of great nicknames as a player. Which one did you like better, Pudge or the Commander?
Well, I'd have to sort of differentiate them this way. Pudge was my name since I was a year old. And so back home in New Hampshire and all throughout New England, I was Pudgy Fisk. Because when I was a baby, and so the story goes for my mother, is that when I was a year old, I weighed 36 pounds when I was a year old. So I was no stranger to the table. And I'm sure my aunt or somebody just pinched my cheek and, aren't you a pudgy little guy? So that is, people back east know me as Pudgy or Pudge, but in Chicago, people still call me the Commander in Chicago because like I said earlier, that I really like to take charge of the game. So I guess I was the boss, at least for the pitching and the catching part goes.
So each one really is special. All right. We mentioned the Celtics. You mentioned Havlicek. Celtics are currently in the NBA Finals. What's your NBA Finals prediction? Are the Celtics going to be able to win it?
Well, there's two answers to that. If the Celtics play like they did in the first game, yes. If they play like they did in the second game, no. So I think those two teams are just teams of streaks where they're going to run, have a run here and there, maybe more than one or two, because they both have guys that can shoot, and I think that the Celtics defense is better. So if you can hold the other team down and then have your guys, I'm hoping that they'll, start shooting better. But their defense is going to hold them in if you can keep Thompson and Steph under control. So it's going to be a Celtics win. Yeah, that's it. Celtics, right?
Go Celtics. Well, Carlton, thank you so much for the time this morning. We really appreciate it. Thank you for answering all these questions, for autographing those baseballs. And hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again for joining us on Fanatics.
Well, thanks. I look at myself, I go, man, he's kind of pale for being in Florida. I just had my hip done, so I've been on crutches for 6 weeks, and I haven't gone outside much. So I'll have a little more color next time, I guess. So,
sounds good. We'll have a speedy recovery as well. Thanks again.
Thanks.
There he goes, Carlton Fisk, iconic home run in Game 6 of the 1975 World Series, well known for his career with both the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago White Sox. And we certainly appreciate his time and enjoy getting his perspective on so many different things, including that Game 6 home run. Do want to remind you that we have another Fanatics Live coming up very soon on June 28th. We're going to be joined by Garrett Wilson. You can see it right there. He was the 10th overall pick in this year's NFL draft by the New York Jets. So be sure to follow at Fanatics on all social media platforms. We'll get you a time on that one. But again, June 28th, we will be joined by Garrett Wilson. That should be a lot of fun. To watch today's show or to go back and watch previous shows, go to fanatics.com/live. We will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we certainly hope that you enjoyed this edition of Fanatics Live. See you next time.